Like I said, I will never let these people escape from the reality they're part of. You see a few pictures. There on top, you see like the head of like a little toddler. Then at the bottom, you see like a little black little girl. And then right on top of me, you see a picture of me when I was from just about to turn 13 years old. Like I said, I will never let these people escape from the reality they're part of. You see a few pictures. There on top, you see like the head of like a little toddler. Then at the bottom, you see like a little black little girl. And then right on top of me, you see a picture of me when I was from just about to turn 13 years old to when I'm like just turning 10 years old and something like that, right? Around that time. And so they try to make me think that the way I respond to children is really, they've matched it to me when I was around that age. And really try to make me accept this. Because it's obvious that it makes no sense that I would naturally have that. So they try to find ways to make you accept these things. You know, I have these people who play this femme fatale, try to play these women that are so, I'm like, they are trash, that have tortured women and children. You're going to hear the testimony of what they do to women and children and how nasty they are. It's funny, before making this video, they tried to bring up something. It's like, because I kicked somebody out of my apartment after something that she threw at me. I grabbed her, threw her out. She stumbled a little bit, come up, and just walked, and everything was fine. These people in here radiating women to death, suffocating their babies, raping them, using this remote technology, and they try to make you see things in these fantasy ways that they want to create for themselves. They live in a la la land that I'm not allowing them to live into. And then you see them. I'm like, for all the women you guys have tortured and fried, and the children, you think I'm going to let you live that fantasy? No. There's too many deaths, which include a lot of women, and suffering for you to escape in that fantasy. So when I'm experiencing these nasty things, and they say, no, we're matching to how you felt when you were around that age. See that little black little girl at the bottom here? They're trying to make me think, no, but remember when you, and they give me like the new version of reactions in my memories. You're gonna hear the reality of these people, what they're part of. The fact that not only they do the perfect torture, but the entities that are in charge of these things, filled with pedophiles doing things to 2-year-old and 6-year-olds. I don't know if the noise campaign is being captured here, but they're doing this noise campaign, which I'm not sure if it's via V2K or it's just like the next door neighbor. But this is the things they try to do to cover up reality, because they torture children. 3-year-old sexually torturing a 3-year-old child. 4 or 5-year-old Down syndrome kids sexually tortured. 7-year-old autistic child suffocated. And there's a lot of women involved in these things. They have lost, they thought I was going to let them live in their little fantasy. For the children, they torture, and they do the perfect type of torture. So you're going to hear the perfect type of torture. It's what they do. To me, with me, what they're doing is, it's you when you're a kid. Then they've tried to bring me back to when I was a year older after this picture was taken. Stupid thing I did to myself. A stupid thing a child can do. Impulsively. Now you see, imagine, try to say, no, what you're experiencing today is how you experience things when you're like a year, even they talk about all around that age. That's what you experience. The BS stories. No, that's what you make me experience. Now, I know that as a child you can do something impulsive and stupid. That's what happened. But now they force me to get stimulation, especially the black little girls. That's when, so you see that little black little girl, oh, that's like, this is you. See, that's how you felt. Like, remember what happens? Like, no, you're making me feel experiencing these things. They even go into like 6 months before this picture was taken. 6 months. It's like, that's I remember when I just turned 12. So even younger than that picture. I said, that's what we go. That's what we match it to. These people filled with pedophiles in these agencies that do this things to 2-year-old. That these people will torture children and will do the pedophilia type of torture. I will not let them escape, no matter what noise campaigns or whatever ways they try to counter reality, because they force you to. Even they talk about in these agencies that do this things to 2-year-old. That these people will torture children and will do the pedophilia type of torture. I will not let them escape, no matter what noise campaigns or whatever ways they try to counter reality, because they force you to experience these things. This is the things they do. You're gonna hear a clear pattern of the manipulation that force people to experience. Clear. Not there's no two ways. There's nothing. It's as clear as it gets. They do these nasty things, and these people who try to play the femme fatale and feminism, because then they try to bring, oh no, remember that girl that you pushed to, you mean the person who threw a drink at me? I grabbed her, opened the door, threw her out of my place. I saw her, she stumbled a little bit, walked out, and walked out normal, healthy. Do you remember that there's a lot of women being radiated to death and even use rape tactics to torture them? And you're part of that program? Do you remember there's a lot of women begging to get help? Do you remember their faces? Do you remember how many of them are killing themselves? You remember how mean you are to women and children? Do you remember how cowardly you are? Traumatized individuals, these people are nasty lowlifes. For whatever they try to create their fantasies, in the midst of not only forcing you to experience these nasty things, then they try to find ways to vilify you. Talk about, oh, you threw this person out like this. You just heard the testimony of what they do to this woman's genitals. She couldn't walk. They made her have a yeast infection so bad that she scratched herself to the point she can't even walk. Can't even use the restroom because they do the things to the genitals and the anal area. And they try to break it down. But then they try to do that in front of you. It's a whole different thing. I can hear somebody crying behind me because they're whispering these things. It's you, you're gonna die. And then I'm hearing, why is there so many pedophiles in these agencies? They're like, crying. Try to, no, it's you, you're gonna pay for it. It's like, what? Well, I'm listening to what they do to 3-year-old kids. What you hear the CIA agents and doing things to 2-year-old and 6-year-old, you're here talk about me like this and try to create even false memory of that. You see, there's a thing where there's like a baby, you see just the top of the head, they start stimulating. You see, it's a little girl, that's you. It's natural. Then give me stimulations. Then try to do the noise campaign. Should try to make you subscribe to these things. So all attack individuals, stay strong. Because they're going to try to get you to accept this nonsensical nastiness that they manipulate your experience. And then when they try to vilify you, remember who's talking to you. Remember the reality of things. Because they're going to put their twist. And on top of that, they're going to make you try to forget about what you know about what they do to women. How mean they are to children. These lowlifes already died on the street and live like them.
Derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa is.
I also experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the
People in my so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting things.
1 hour of sleep or so, as I lay immobilized in my bed in complete fear. This experience, along with the brain being microwaved and along with some internet research, is what made me put the puzzle pieces together to realize that I was experiencing remote external manipulation via electronic weapons, because these symptoms of sexual assault were not physiologically normal or possible without external manipulation. It is not physiologically normal to just have repeated spontaneous orgasms all through the night like that, literally one right after another. And then it all made sense when I learned about microwave weapons. In 2015, I began to experience what some call V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as destructive.
Started laughing, and then I said again out loud, "You'll never take my will, ASS." So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them, I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me, all of the slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags, etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravate the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc., especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program and
about masturbation frequently and other sexual things. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, "ow," while looking up at me. Much that it leaves my genitals painfully raw, making it hard to walk or sit or go to the bathroom. I would now like to talk about the people around me being manipulated by these electronic weapons as well. There does not appear to be a need for microchips or nanotechnologies to manipulate the minds and bodies of anyone around me anywhere in the world, which I have repeatedly witnessed. For example, they make people around me burp, hiccup, and sneeze repeatedly, especially the sneezing, because the V2K says it's like an orgasm, so they make people around me sneeze excessively to threaten more sexual assaults. I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each.
He very well described a typical breakdown script that's used on almost all the TI victims. TI stands for targeted individuals. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture scripts. I mean, Kubark manual. And they do good cop, bad cop interrogation called Jeff and Mutt. And they go right, and I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And
sexual conduct. This is one employee of the CIA had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. The CIA did not answer detailed questions, saying only that the agency takes all allegations of possible criminal misconduct committed by personnel seriously. So you're saying the reason graph examinations. This is so disturbing.
Talking about it on YouTube. That's a direct quote.
Wow. Okay, here's more from this, and we'll finish this and then move on to the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening for whatever reason with more frequency in our intelligence agencies, or is this something that is more pervasive in the general population than I originally realized? I mean, what's going on here? This is so bizarre. Remember, it's so evil.
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind those computer screens within the walls of Langley, within the Pentagon, and throughout the broader intelligence community?
Derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their mind.